So, dear all, welcome in this new episode, and today we will discuss about training in ESD, but not exactly like we did before, more with some advices on probably how we could consider training and how we could improve the training we propose about ESD. So today we will discuss about the training itself, the training organization, and the training theory, probably. So first, my first slide is a ski slide. So you can see on this picture the first double cork 2160 of the history. It was a new thing. A very complex jump done for the first time in 2023, and now in 2025 almost all the guys who are on the World Championship are doing it. So what's this double cork to 2160 degrees? It's a highly technical procedure, so it needs high skills and thousands of repetition of small each step of the jump. I mean, you cannot learn it from the beginning. It's a very long learning curve, and probably you should cut the whole jump in many different steps in order to learn it completely at the end of your training. It's relatively low tech. Those guys are able to do it with almost every ski on the market. And it's a very risky procedure. It means that probably nobody will have the idea of trying this kind of jump without any training. If they do it, the risk of early stop because of crash is very high or is systematic. I don't know. So the question is, should we begin ski with a double cork 2160? No, it's clear no. If you begin by this way, you will stop skiing very quickly. So you should do it properly and progressively from the young age. It's easier to learn something. With my son here, who was 18 months when he skied for the first time. My daughter with her first slope, and therefore first supervision, first success, first traction also, and first jump. That comes quite quickly, but we are still far from the double cork. What is ESD now? It's a highly technical procedure. Even if it's less impressive and you don't pass on the TV when you do ESD, it's almost the same in terms of skills and repetition of small parts of the procedure in order to do it properly during the full process. It needs a long learning curve. It's a relatively low-tech technique because everybody can have access to a knife, but once again, nobody should probably try this without experience, particularly in the colon, because it's a risky procedure and there is a risk of damage, of adverse event for the patient, and then of early stop if you begin directly by ESD. So, same as previously done. Should we begin endoscopy with an appendiceal ESD for a recurrence in IBD? No. You should have the first skill, the first simulation, the first supervision case, the first success, which is an easy one, the first ESD with traction, and then, once again, you are still far from the very, very difficult case at the end of the learning curve. So we have no choice. We should follow an organized, complex, and long training model. And we did this travel, this journey, because in France in 2014, Gabriel Ramy, one of our friends, had to publish the results of the first prospective study about ESD in France. And the results were very disappointing because the R0 rate was only 52% and the perforation rate was 34%. So Our mentors at this time said, okay, ESD is not really for us. We should dedicate training and give this new technique to the young fellows, sending them to Japan, for example. So Gabriel went to Kobe and I went to Tokyo to have a proper training to learn, even if it will take time. And finally, after this kind of trips, ESGE, on the impulsion of Professor Ponchon, proposed a curriculum, which is a kind of written document to do some steps of training to achieve a complete ESD training at the end. And in this curriculum, some points were important: the selection of candidates with their previous experience, a theoretical education, a simulation process, supervision during the first cases, and we were in charge, Jérémy Jacques and myself, to propose this training for the French Society of Digestive Endoscopy. So we could do it thanks to the help of our national society, with the capability to train 16 people every year. And to let you know, we receive around 35 forms every year to apply to the training program, and we accept 16. Our choice are made seeing or regarding at the motivation, the ESD background, the volume of the center. Initially, the volume to have a trainee was not fixed, but in fact we see that if the volume of the center is under 50 or probably under 100 cases per year, the number of cases that are really shared to the trainee is very small and is not enough. So now it's more or less 100 cases per year as a minimum to share with the trainee. We need an expert supervisor who is engaged and who is okay to train the trainee. We try to cover the French geographic area in order to propose ESD almost everywhere. And if possible, we like to see the technical skills of the guy during a workshop before, to be sure that there are the minimum background of being able to do a colonoscopy with only one hand, being able to torque, being able to deal with perforation or bleeding, in order to save time and to get into the program people who are at the level of beginning the ESD training. This training program is composed of 3 parts. Before the simulation week, so we have ESD theory education with 6 webinars, and now we have the ESD school channel to give them a theoretical knowledge. After, we have 1 week of simulation in Limoges, with only simulation all the week on models with different kind of trainings. And after, the trainee is going back to his center with his expert supervisor, and he has a 1-year period of supervision where he has to register, to record all the cases he did in a database. So the question probably is, can we train more effectively the trainees we have to train? In fact, in medicine, usually we train on people during the game, during the procedure that is here to cure the patient of something. But if we go back to sport, which is a learning of technical steps, in fact, nobody learns sport directly by the game. They all do training. They do training about their skills. For example, here, so they do a lot of exercise to develop the skills. They simulate some game. They, as we could do in models, doing the same procedure but simulated. After, they do games, but not so frequently, and they have success and they celebrate the success. So it's something important to have a celebration of the success at the end, because it makes you happy to have the success, searching for the success. And in fact, we could reproduce it by working our skills every day with a skill box, for example, doing simulation relatively frequently, doing our cases, and celebrating or something like this our success with the patient. And probably what we also don't do so much is the warm-up. We begin the game with relatively cold articulation, cold brain, everything. We are not into our procedure when we begin in the morning while they are doing it for sport. Another point which is probably important is to prepare the game and to prepare the procedure by visualization, by strategies. So it's probably better to have the picture of the lesion so you can enter into your procedure trying to look for the better strategy. You could also predict the difficulties and the material needed to deal with the difficulty. And you will also be able to choose your material and to prepare your material before. And all these small things will make the procedure more smooth without stress because you miss something, you have not anticipated something. So probably it's also a way to have a better success and a better strategy if we think again to sport, how they deal with the competitions. Can we train more effectively with better trainers also? Probably, because finally my own definition of being a trainer is that I am in an academic hospital and I train people. But is it something that makes me a good trainer? I don't think so. I have never been trained to train. I never received a theoretical lecture about how can I train better in ESD. I have never seen videos of the students or the trainees with other trainers to discuss what is the problem, how can we improve, how can I help him, which exercise should be a good option for him. So probably there is also a point on trainers, and training the trainers in ESD is also probably needed. Several points also for me are important, and I'm really convinced that training by doing a complete ESD is not very effective because, for example, they will spend 45 minutes to do a 3 or 4 centimeter lesion on model, but finally it will take a lot of time to do only once each step. And it's difficult for the brain to learn something by doing only one step for 45 minutes and going back with this step only the week later because you have a new time to dedicate to training. Probably we should split the procedure in different steps and repeat the steps during 45 minutes. For example, doing incision during 45 minutes, doing injection during 45 minutes, tunneling during 45 minutes, traction, putting many traction. So if you do like this, your brain will be trained to repeat the same task many times during a short period and will learn how to do it. If you repeat the training of incision only once a week because you spend 45 minutes to go back to a new procedure, it will be probably less easy to be trained in something. Some exercises are probably interesting. The smile one is one of our favorites. We ask people to do a smile. So here, this is the eyes and the nose, and after you have to create the mouth. So this is the goal of the exercise is to enter into the submucosa. So we do a small hole, we inject in the good layer. If everything was ready, it could be better, but here, so we inject into the submucosa, and then we ask them to try to do a round smile shape incision and then trimming to go enter to enter into the submucosa and to access to the submucosal space. When you will be trained, it will take less than 5 minutes to do it, but if you repeat it several times, you will be very trained to enter into the submucosa. So I think it's a good way, relatively, I would say it, it's practical, it's not so difficult, it's funny, and you work a lot. What is really important in ESD is to enter into the submucosal space with your cap, going into the area of submucosa. And you can see that it takes only few minutes. So if you train like this, you will be able to have a better access into the submucosa. Should we still use living animals for training? We did a study on this, and finally the two models which are very effective to separate the trainees depending on their level are the bovine colon and the living pig stomach. So bovine colon is very good to train people in ESD, very good to separate the good and the relatively low experience guy. So it's enough to train, and the main benefit of living animal is to deal with bleedings, but it has to be very rare if you really want to train on bleedings, because you can train people without killing animals most of the time with, for example, bovine colon models you can get from the slaughterhouse. So the result of the training in France about theoretical knowledge, it improved after the training. Technical test with 7 steps, marking, incision, injection, tunneling, traction, etc. So good progression during the mean. And if we use a complex score coming from surgery, the OSAT score, we have the same result. I mean, people are progressing during 1 week of simulation. It's an intensive week with simulation every day from Monday to Friday and test on the first and on the last day. 87% of the trainees improve their results. And what is interesting is that using complex score or using 5 minutes of evaluation by an expert is relatively correlated. So if you are an expert in training and in supervising training, you have a good idea of the guys by seeing him 5 minutes, and it goes relatively well correlated with a complex score. The expert supervision now. So some tools are probably useful to supervise people. One which is important for me and I share here is the laser, because I'm always a little anxious about the good cutting line, and because we are far from the screen, it's difficult for me to be sure that the trainee is going to the good line. So I like to have this kind of device just to show the good cutting line. Some can use something in wood or to show on the screen, but a laser is also a good way to be sure the trainee is not going directly to the muscle, which is frequent at the beginning of the training. So the result of the French training after 1 year of supervision, in this evaluation we had 45 trainees, so the 3 first years. They cumulated 2,100 procedures with a median of 34 procedures by guy, mostly rectal and colon cases in France, 75% with traction. The result of quality are very good, with 93% of en bloc and 86% of R0, with a relatively high rate of perforation, 9%, and 1% of surgery. So one of the focus for the next year will be to work on closure of perforation, because it's not acceptable to have 1% of surgery for a perforation, especially when half of the cases were in the rectum. The competency was acquired for 75% of guys. It means being able to do a procedure with more than 10 procedure with more than 90% of success without surgery for complication. And we could see that the competency was acquired for people who were able to do more than 45 dissections during the year of supervision. So it means at least once a week. And this was most frequent in high volume center of more than 100. And one thing that was relatively interesting is that we saw that finally the youngest physicians who are not in charge of a unit, who have time to dedicate to training about ESD, were at the end more able to acquire the competency than the guy who are older and who are already in charge of an endoscopy unit with ERCP, US, and many other staff things to do. So, in conclusion, the ESD training is complex. It should be done step by step without cutting corners. Probably we should inspire ourselves more about sports on the way of training by dividing the procedure in many steps, on the way of training on the point of trainers, because we should probably be trained like trainers in sport. Mentalization, visualization, but also celebration of success are important to keep in mind that it is a technical procedure with a relatively well-defined success, and if we want to reach success, we should prepare ourselves like they do in sport. It's very similar. And some of the points here are just to let you think about it and to be inspired for your future supervision of trainees. From my side, I think that frequently short training times are better than a long run once a week. So I prefer to share small steps frequently in the week instead of giving them 2 hours. That makes the schedule late and difficult to deal with. But 10 minutes on every procedure is probably better. Step by step. So I prefer to give incision for 1 week, for example. So this week we work on incision, and next week we will do more ESD in tunnel, and next week bleeding management, etc. Probably during the workshop and the hands-on training, we should focus on steps and not a full procedure training that the guy do only once. Mentalization and visualization rather than empiric discovery of the problem during the procedure are probably better. Model exercise rather than human ESD, because it's not really acceptable to train ourselves on human by doing mistakes. We can save time by doing models. I think that both supervision to be guided and struggling by yourself in an easy case are important. So I think we should alternatively do part with supervision and part with a kind of struggling in safety instead of doing only one. If you guide people every time, he will get lost when he will be alone, but on the opposite, if he struggles every time, he will take a lot of time to be trained and to go faster. The success is important rather than crash, especially for the patient and its safety. And probably also we should think about warm up in the morning, but also gainage, strengthening, because our body is the way to transmit the force to remove the lesion. And if we have a better body, probably we will be more effective also for ESD. So I hope it was interesting for you, and hope to see you soon for the next episode. Thank you very much.